All right, let's get into it. Today, we're uncorking the secrets of Hungary's legendary Tokaj region. And if you're a serious wine student, this is one you absolutely have to know.
So, let's start with its reputation, which is, well, royal. And that's not just some modern marketing slogan. We're talking about King Louis XIV of France, who famously called it the wine of kings, king of wines. I mean, for centuries, this stuff was seen as the absolute pinnacle of luxury.
Okay, so where exactly does this liquid gold come from? Let's kick things off by digging into its location and the unique geography that makes it all possible.
So we find ourselves way up in northeastern Hungary, right on the border with Slovakia. And the real secret sauce here? It's the topography. You've got these vineyards tucked into the foothills of the Zemplén and Carpathian Mountains. They act like a giant shield, blocking all those harsh northern winds. And that means the vines, which are planted on these perfect south-facing slopes, can just soak up all the sun they can get.
All right, now for the really cool part. Let's get into the magic behind that famous sweetness. And trust me, it's not just about getting the grapes ripe. It's all about a super specific microclimate and, believe it or not, a special kind of fungus. The whole thing, and I mean everything, hinges on where two rivers meet, the Bodrog and the Tisza. Picture this, it's autumn. The grapes are almost perfectly ripe, and these rivers start creating these super humid, misty mornings that just blanket the vineyards. And that humidity is the secret ingredient. It's the trigger for a phenomenon called noble rot. But here's the thing, it's not a given. You need a perfect storm of conditions. First, the grapes have to be completely ripe. Then, you get those misty mornings that let the fungus, Botrytis, get a foothold. But, and this is absolutely crucial, that mist has to burn off in the afternoon thanks to warm, sunny skies. That sunshine dries the grapes out, which stops the fungus from just destroying everything. Instead, it gently pierces the grape skins, letting the water inside evaporate.
And this really shows you the knife's edge they're on. You get that perfect balance, misty mornings, sunny afternoons, and bam, you have noble rot. You get these shriveled up, raisin-like berries that are just packed with concentrated sugar, acid, and amazing flavor. But if you don't get that sun, if it stays damp all day, you just get gray rot, which is exactly what it sounds like. It just destroys the crop. It's the definition of high-risk, high-reward winemaking.
Okay, but you can't just do this with any old grape. You need the right players. So let's meet the stars of the show in Tokaj. We're really talking about a core trio here.
Yeah, so three main grapes pretty much run the whole show here. And as you can see, there's no question who's the king. Furmint. It's got about 2/3 of all the vineyards. So let's talk about why it's such a big deal.
So Furmint. This grape is the absolute backbone of Tokaj. The key is it's screaming high acidity. That acidity is what makes the sweet wines work. It cuts through all that sugar, so they're not cloying, and it lets them age for, well, decades, sometimes even centuries. Plus, its thin skins make it the perfect target for that noble rot we were just talking about. And then you have its two aromatic sidekicks. First, Hárslevelű. It's about 30% of the plantings, and it brings this gorgeous richness. Think honey and floral, perfumey notes. Then you have Sárgamuskotály, which is basically muscat, and it does what muscat does best. It adds this big, explosive, grapey floral punch to the blend.
All right, now for the main event. Let's talk about the world-famous sweet wines of Tokaj. And for anyone studying for their WSET Level 3, you're going to want to pay close attention because understanding how these are made is absolutely essential.
The one word you just have to know here is Aszú. That's the name for those individual, shriveled-up grapes that have been hit by noble rot. And the harvest is insane. They're picked by hand, berry by berry. These Aszú berries are then added to a dry base wine to give it sweetness and all that incredible flavor.
So how sweet are we talking? This table breaks it down nicely. Under the current rules, a Tokaji Aszú has to have at least 120 grams per liter of sugar. That's what 5 Puttonyos means. 6 Puttonyos means it's even sweeter, with more Aszú berries. And then, well, then there's Eszencia, and that stuff is just on another planet.
Let me put this in perspective for you. Essencia has a minimum of 450 grams of sugar per liter. 450! It's basically the free-run juice that just drips out of the Aszú berries from their own weight. It is so incredibly sweet that yeast can hardly even ferment it. We're talking years of fermentation just to get to like 2 to 5% alcohol. It's not really wine at that point, it's more like a divine nectar.
But hold on, Tokaj isn't just about super sweet wines. That would be selling it way short. the region is making some seriously important and really cool dry and alternative styles that you definitely need to know about. Okay, first up is a style called Szamorodni. The name literally means as it comes, and that's the perfect way to think about it, because instead of that painstaking berry-by-berry picking, here they just harvest whole bunches, rotten grapes, healthy grapes, and everything in between, and ferment it all together. And what's wild is that this one method can produce two completely different wines. If you age the dry version, called cellars, in barrels that aren't topped up, it develops this film of yeast, kind of like a floor, and you get these savory, nutty flavors, almost like a Fino sherry. On the other hand, if the bunches had a lot more Botrytis to begin with, you get the sweet version, Edish, which is this lighter, fruit-forward sweet wine. And knowing the difference between those two? Total classic exam question.
And that brings us to the modern, dry Tokaji. These are getting super popular, and for good reason. They're usually 100% ferment, made from perfectly healthy grapes with zero noble rot. Think crisp, bone dry, with that searing acidity from the grape and this amazing minerality that just screams of the region's volcanic soils.
All right, let's bring it all home. To wrap this up, let's go over the key takeaways, the stuff you really need to lock in about Tokaj, especially if you're studying.
So here it is in a nutshell. To really get Tokaj, you have to understand a few key things. First, the climate. Those mists from the two rivers are everything for creating noble rot. Second, the grapes. Furmint is your acidic star, with Hárslevelű and Sárgamuskotály bringing the perfume. Third, the Aszú method. Remember, you're adding those rotten berries to a base wine. And finally, the styles. You've got everything from dry ferment to the sherry-like cellars, the sweet Edish, late harvest, the legendary Aszú, and the mind-blowing Essencia. Oh, and a little pro tip for your exam, remember that the classic sweet Tokaji bottle is smaller, just 50 centiliters. Don't forget that detail. So, that leaves us with one final thought. When you step back and look at the whole picture, from bone-dry, mineral-packed whites, to unique sherry-like oxidative wines, all the way to some of the most decadent, complex, and age-worthy sweet nectars on the entire planet, you have to ask yourself, is there any other wine region in the world that's this complete?